Did you know? The idea for No More Heroes came after Goichi Suda wanted a change of pace after finishing Killer 7. Realizing that his games had thus far been fairly stoic, Suda set out to prove that he and his team at Grasshopper Manufacture could make a game that was unique and outrageous. After Killer 7, Suda worked on both Samurai Champloo's Sidetracked and Blood Plus One Night Kiss. Although licensed anime games, each served a key role in layering the groundwork for No More Heroes, and Suda himself considers all 3 games to form a sword action trilogy. Another pivotal moment in No More Heroes' creation was when Suda saw the Wii Remote. Inspired by its unique design, he immediately tried to ensure that No More Heroes would take advantage of the controller's features. However, Suda ran into issues when his publishers demanded that the game be made for the Xbox 360 instead. As he was shown the controller before the Wii's official public reveal, Suda struggled to convince his publishers to let him make the game on Nintendo's new upcoming console without revealing its hardware secrets. Nevertheless, he eventually won them over. At first, the team attempted designing No More Heroes to use a single Wii remote and streamline the game as much as possible to fit this design. However, after struggling to make this control scheme work and feel fun, the idea was eventually scrapped. Suda then decided to mix the Wii's motion controls with classic button pressing to achieve the best of both worlds. Similarly, other aspects of the game combined different inspirations as well. The character of Travis Touchdown was somewhat based on Johnny Knoxville and his antics on the reality stunt show Jackass. Suda would regularly show his team the scene where Johnny has his nipple bit by a baby alligator in Jackass the movie to illustrate the kind of character Travis was meant to be. Incidentally, Knoxville wears a pair of aviator sunglasses in this scene which bear a striking resemblance to the ones worn by Travis. Travis was also based on Josh Barnett, a former UFC heavyweight and professional wrestler who was a huge fan of Magic the Gathering and whose nickname, the WARMASTER, references the tabletop wargame Warhammer 40k. Some have wondered why Travis is often associated with tiger symbolism and iconography in all of the various games. This includes designs on his jacket, his morphing ability in No More Heroes 2, and his special move in Travis Strikes Again. This is because, in Japanese, Travis's name is Torabisu Tachidown. The first part of the name, Tora, means tiger in Japanese. These are far from the only inspirations in No More Heroes, though. The character Sylvia Christel is modeled after actress Scarlett Johansson, and the motel Travis lives in is inspired by the one seen in Christopher Nolan's movie Memento. The plot of hunting down a number of assassins is also influenced by the cult film El Topo. Even the name of the game is taken from a song attributed by English punk rock band The Stranglers. Interestingly, while No More Heroes' beam katanas have often been compared to Star Wars' lightsabers, Suda claims they were actually inspired by the Schwartz rings from Mel Brooks' comedy Spaceballs instead. This sense of humor even extended to the game's launch in Japan, where producer Yasuhiro Wada joined Suda to autograph copies of the game while giving away No More Heroes branded toilet paper rolls. Japanese journalists flocked to cover the launch event, but after 20 minutes of standing outside the game store, not a single fan had approached them. Eventually, a Famitsu reporter took pity on the duo and finally bought a copy himself. No More Heroes' part-time jobs have often been criticized as tedious and grindy. This may be fitting, however, as Suda claims that the minigames were inspired by his and the team's less than pleasant past experiences trying to make ends meet. Suda explained, "We want to include the message in our games that some jobs aren't important and you may hate them, but if you do them to the best of your ability, it'll turn out well. Better times will come." On the flip side, while No More Heroes' stylistic ultra-violence has won praise from fans and critics, it's also landed the game in hot water with censors in the past. For example, the Japanese version of the game replaced a vast majority of the blood with black mist. Players can't cut enemies in half, and the game's cutscenes were reanimated to remove any instances of dismemberment or decapitation. Although Suda originally planned to leave No More Heroes uncensored in North America and Europe, he later stated that the European game would need to be censored like the Japanese release in consideration of the broadly growing Wii market. this sparked outcry among European gamers. So, when No More Heroes 2 was announced, Suda was bombarded by reporters asking if the sequel would be censored in Europe as well. Striving to give fans what they want this time around, Suda announced plans for 2 versions of the game, one that was censored and an extreme uncut release. Despite this announcement, however, the censored version would eventually be dropped altogether. European fans wouldn't be able to experience the original game in all its glory until the release of No More Heroes: Heroes Paradise in 2011. Now, while the Japanese version of the port was censored on the PS3, the 360 edition was left completely uncut, causing Japan's video game ratings board to give the game a Z, the equivalent to an AO by the ESRB. While working on No More Heroes 2: Desperate Struggle, Suda was influenced by the mix of violence and emotional drama from a film by Kinji Fukasaku. In fact, while the movie's title is often translated as Battles Without Honor and Humanity: Deadly Fight in Hiroshima or Hiroshima Deathmatch, Shito Hen can be translated as Deadly Struggle, which inspired the game's subtitle. Meanwhile, the game's peep show scenes mirror those from Suda's favorite movie, Paris, Texas. Though the music of the original No More Heroes was entirely composed between Masafumi Takada and Jun Fukuda, No More Heroes 2's soundtrack features over 20 musicians. To pull all of this off, the game's sound coordinator Nobuhiko Sagara was tasked with reading the script to figure out what type of music would best fit each scene in the game. Afterwards, he found musicians, gave them direction, filled out contracts, and even attended the recording sessions to make sure every song was perfect for the game. To illustrate the theme of revenge, the music went in a heavier, rougher direction with a greater emphasis on guitars compared to the first game. And to prevent the soundtrack from becoming too monotonous, genres such as pop, jazz, and R&B were thrown into the mix as well. No More Hero 2's abundance of retro minigames came from Suda's dissatisfaction with how few 8-bit elements made it into the first game. Originally, Suda tasked the studio creating just 3 8-bit games. However, the team had so much fun making them that every game eventually became 8-bit. As more and more minigames were being added, things got a little out of hand and Suda had to tell the team to stop. Regardless, some of the devs didn't really get the hint and continued to work on them until the project was completely thrown off schedule. However, Suda was ultimately proud of his team's work and felt it was worth it in the end, despite the delays. While fans have been clamoring for Travis's return for years, Suda initially intended No More Heroes 2 to be Travis's final game. In a 2012 interview with 1UP, Suda commented, "I want to continue the No More Heroes series, but I finished the story for Travis. So I want to think of a different story, a different character, or something like that within the series." In fact, No More Heroes World Ranker, a Japanese exclusive online mobile game released that same year, stars a custom avatar instead of Travis. Travis Strikes Again: No More Heroes likely wouldn't exist today if it weren't for the indie smash hit Hotline Miami. Suda was floored by the game's brutally fatal combat and daring design, especially when compared to modern AAA games. After personally meeting the game's developers, Jonathan SODERSTROM and Dennis Wedden, Suda was inspired to work on a smaller indie-style game of his own, convincing Gung Ho Online Entertainment to let him work on a new game with a core team of just 5 members after finishing up work on Let It Die. At first, this new project had originally nothing to do with No More Heroes. It wasn't until 2016 when Nintendo showed Suda a prototype of the Switch that he realized his new game could serve as a perfect means of bringing No More Heroes back into the spotlight. He then reworked the game's storyline to revolve around fan-favorite Travis Touchdown. The reveal of this new game made waves due to fans' anticipation and Suda51's translators' inability to keep up with him. Suda admitted that he was supposed to follow a script, but decided to ad-lib at the last minute. While his friends and colleagues applauded this move, he felt guilty for the trouble he caused his interpreter. To make it up to him, Suda personally met the translator after the event with a gift to apologize. Initially, Travis Strikes Again was going to be an indie crossover game, with Travis battling his way through the worlds of numerous independent titles. However, Suda realized that the amount of back and forth required to keep everything true to the worlds of each game would be impossible to pull off with their development schedule. Nevertheless, Suda was sure to collaborate with JONATAN Games to include a piece of Hotline Miami in Travis Strikes Again, among many others. While indies have made a massive impact on Travis Strikes Again, the title's themes of games within games was directly influenced by Suda's previous work on Let It Die. In fact, Suda has confirmed that Travis's haunted video game console, the Death Drive Mark II, is the predecessor to the Death Drive 128 seen in Let It Die. Another interesting fact from Travis Strikes Again is that every skill chip Travis can acquire is actually named after a model of Gundam. Suda decided to put No More Heroes in the game's subtitle as he doesn't consider Travis Strikes Again to be a direct sequel to No More Heroes 2, as it differs in story, themes, and gameplay. On the other hand, he doesn't consider the game to be a spin-off either, explaining in an interview, Travis Strikes Again is something of a stepping stone on the road to No More Heroes 3, so the way I'd like people to think of this game is the beginning of a new battle for Travis, a new series within the series. Did you also know that Masahiro Sakurai has pushed himself so hard during development of Super Smash Bros. Games that he has been hospitalized? For more facts, check out the DidYouKnowGaming video on Masahiro Sakurai. And if you want to see more of Travis Strikes Again, make sure to click over to my channel, the Matt McMuscles Flophouse, where I'm tearing it up through the Death Drive Mark II and experiencing Suda's wacky new world. So join me and enter the Garden of Madness!